Welcome back to Hannity. So tonight, our own James Rosen is reporting that according to sources, Republican congressional investigators, they expect this week to receive a potential, quote, smoking gun, one that will prove the Obama administration spied on the Trump transition team in the weeks following the November election. Rosen, in an article posted up right now at foxnews.com, writes, quote, the intelligence is said to leave no doubt the Obama administration in its closing days was using the cover of legitimate surveillance on foreign targets to spy on President-elect Trump, according to sources. Here now with reaction from Circa News, Sarah Carter from the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow. I see you smiling, Sarah, because every day, everything you said is coming true. I expect this is going to come out tomorrow. Based on my interview, what did you think, A, of what Devin Nunes said, and what do you think about this Rosen report?
Well, on the Rosen report first, I think that it's going to be an accumulation of evidence, not just one little piece of evidence, but an accumulation of evidence that's going to expose what's been going on. I mean, we're going to have more facts tomorrow when the information is delivered to the chairman. And if we're looking at the scope of this, I think the most important thing that Chairman Nunes said, and you brought up, Sean, yourself, was this expansion of the 12-333. Now, if we look at the evidence, a lot of this information that the chairman's collected happened before that. So the question we have to be asking ourselves is what changed? If it was legal to collect this evidence, not the unmasking of all of these names, but if this was collected legally, was there something else that happened before this that we're not aware of yet? And I remember I saw Chairman Nunes kind of dancing around that a little bit.
Yeah, but by the way, you've confirmed that stuff happened before that, and that was
Correct.
The FISA warrant and the separate criminal warrant, if you
Correct.
will. Jay, from your perspective, I'm dying to get what you think of all this.
Yeah, I'll tell you the biggest takeaway from your interview, it was a great interview with Congressman Nunes, was the fact that he said some of this was not 12-333 information. In other words, it was before the change to allow the broad dissemination of this material, which previously you weren't able to do. He's saying that it doesn't implicate that, which means this information could well have been disclosed without any cover of legitimacy under an executive order. Not that that executive order was legitimate in my view, but that executive order may be gone. You know what I think we've got here, Sean? I think we've got a constitutional crisis of James Comey's making. So this is a constitutional crisis from Comey. And Comey was an administration official also under President Obama. And this idea that President Obama did not order it does not answer the question of was the Obama administration responsible for this, because the fact is, and this is clear, they were the administration in power.
It doesn't
so
answer
this surveillance,
also,
which we now know is going on, they're responsible. Period.
It doesn't also answer what he knew or what others knew, and who knew what, when, and where, and what did they know and when did they know it. All right, so Jay told us where he thinks this is going. Sarah, where do you think it's going?
Look, I think the expansion goes way beyond Comey. I think this goes straight to the highest levels of the Obama administration, and that's where these answers need to come from. We need to find out who unmasked these names, and it wasn't just Director Comey. There were other people that had access to this, and the NSA can unmask these names. So who requested that? That's one of the most important questions here, Sean, and why? And why? And I think once those questions start to get answered, just like Chairman Nunes said, then we'll know, was there political espionage? And if there was, Sean, this is the greatest civil liberties violations that we have seen in our country in a long time.
This would make Watergate look like kindergarten?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Sean, here's what I would tell you. You want to get to the answer on this question? Subpoena a couple people, including the former President of the United States. You want to find out what he knew and when he knew it? Ask him. Yeah. Especially if this was not anything outside the scope of legitimacy. So if this was, quote, illegal surveillance, but they unmasked this information, which is not, I'd ask the President directly.
The bottom line is they were surveilling the president. And Sarah, you believe it was before the election, and now we're getting it confirmed by James Rosen after the election. You also said it had happened after the election, but we're getting more specifics. Now, there should be ways to determine who had access to what this intelligence was. The fact that Devin Nunes says it was widely disseminated before 12-333 was amended, that tells me that maybe that in and of itself was wrong. Or it had to be the highest level of our intelligence agencies that had it, because nobody else would otherwise therefore have access. Right, Sarah?
That's absolutely correct. And remember, every time you go into a SCIF, every time you go into these secured, compartmentalized facilities to view this information, you have to swipe in. You have to swipe in. You have to sign a log. It doesn't matter if you're the guy, an analyst working on a case, or if you're John Brennan, the former director of the CIA. You have to swipe in. So there are logs out there, Sean, and there is evidence out there. Some of that's classified, but they're able to get a hold of it. If Chairman Nunez can get a hold of that information, he can start finding out who did it.
President Trump about what Nunez should do.
Can get that information.
Jay, because I'm running out of time. What should Nunez be doing, and what should the Attorney General perhaps be doing here?
Well, I think the Attorney General needs to impanel a grand jury. That's the first thing that needs to happen, and start this investigation, because as Sarah says, correct. You can find out who did this, so that's number one. Number two, for the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, he needs to get the background data, because what he saw in those reports shocked him, obviously, not just because it named President Trump potentially and his associates, but also the nature of the dissemination itself. And that dissemination, that unmasking, can well be a crime, so they need to get the background data. And Sean, the President Trump can get this information. He's got the highest security clearance. He's the President of the United States and the Commander-in-Chief. He can get that information, and they need to get it, and Jeff Sessions need to be working on it tonight.
And I'll add one last point. We got to go. James Comey needs to now come clean with the American people and tell the American people what he knows. He cannot leave this out there hanging any longer. All right. We'll have a lot more. I think tomorrow we'll have you back, both of you tomorrow, to talk about it. Thank you. And up